In every era of human history, there have been those who dared to stand alone, who refused to follow the crowd, who chose authenticity over comfort, truth over popularity, and selfhood over imitation. Søren Kierkegaard, the 19th-century Danish philosopher, was one of them. He lived in a society obsessed with conformity, religion, and reputation, yet he declared that the highest human task was to become oneself. To be an individual, he said, was the greatest act of courage. But this courage is not born of arrogance, it is born of the understanding that no one else can live your life, feel your pain, or carry your responsibility for existence. Kierkegaard's philosophy was not written for universities, it was written for you, the human being who looks into the mirror and wonders, who am I really, and why am I afraid to be that person? Kierkegaard believed that modern life was drowning in the noise of the crowd. He saw people mimicking one another's beliefs, hiding behind social roles, and avoiding the anxiety that comes with true freedom. To him, this imitation was a form of despair, not the despair of pain or failure, but the despair of never being truly alive. He called it the sickness unto death, the slow suffocation of the soul that happens when a person chooses comfort over authenticity. It's easy to live like everyone else. It's easy to believe what you're told. It's easy to do what's expected. But Kierkegaard asked, what happens when you remove all that noise? What's left when you strip away the opinions, the trends, the borrowed ideas? Can you face the naked truth of who you are? He once wrote, "The crowd is untruth." It was one of his boldest and most misunderstood statements. He didn't mean that being with others is wrong. He meant that when we dissolve ourselves into the crowd, when we let society decide what we value, what we love, what we fear, we lose the essence of being human. For Kierkegaard, truth was not a system of ideas but an inner relationship, a passionate, subjective commitment to what you know in your heart to be true. Truth, in his eyes, was lived, not memorized. It was the fire that burns within when you follow your own conscience, even when the world mocks you for it. To be an individual, then, is not about isolation. It's about responsibility. It's about realizing that your existence is not a rehearsal of someone else's script. You are the author. You are the actor. You are the witness. Kierkegaard believed that every person must undergo what he called an existential awakening, a moment when you stop existing as a reflection of others and begin to exist as yourself. This awakening is not comfortable. It brings anxiety, what he called the dizziness of freedom. When you realize that you can choose, truly choose, your beliefs, your values, your actions, you also realize the terrifying weight of freedom. There is no one to blame, no authority to hide behind, no rulebook that guarantees you the right answer. Freedom can feel like falling, but Kierkegaard said that this fall is necessary for flight. He often spoke of three stages of life: the aesthetic, the ethical, and the religious. The aesthetic life is the life of pleasure, where one seeks enjoyment, novelty, and distraction. The ethical life is the life of duty, morality, and social responsibility. But beyond both lies the religious life, not in the sense of organized religion, but a direct, inward relationship with existence itself, a leap of faith into the unknown, where you live by truth rather than comfort. This leap, he said, defines the individual. It is not rational. It is not safe. But it is the only path to authenticity. The courage to be yourself, for Kierkegaard, begins with the courage to doubt. He doubted not because he was cynical, but because he believed faith without doubt is lifeless. To him, faith was not blind obedience, it was the brave act of believing despite uncertainty. It was not about surrendering your mind, it was about using it to find what cannot be seen. He admired Abraham from the Bible, not because Abraham followed a rule, but because he acted from a deeply personal conviction that defied logic. That, Kierkegaard said, is the essence of the individual, to live from within, not from without. In our modern world, his warnings feel more relevant than ever. We live in an age of algorithmic crowds, digital masses where opinions echo louder than truth, where people trade their individuality for approval. Social media rewards imitation, it punishes difference. Kierkegaard would have seen this as the ultimate despair, millions of people existing in public but vanishing in spirit. He would ask us, are you living, or are you performing? Are your beliefs truly yours, or are they what you've been told to think? Kierkegaard's life itself was a testament to his philosophy. He was mocked by the Danish press, misunderstood by his peers, and isolated by choice. Yet he wrote with passion, with fire, with the urgency of a man who saw through the illusion of comfort. He knew that loneliness was the price of truth. To stand apart from the crowd was to suffer, but to him, this suffering was sacred. It was the suffering of birth, the birth of the authentic self. He once wrote, "To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself." That single line captures the essence of his thought. To avoid risk is to avoid life itself. The individual must dare to exist. And daring means more than rebellion. It means the courage to take ownership of your own contradictions, your own failures, your own uncertainty. Kierkegaard taught that despair can be a doorway. When you feel lost, when you feel meaningless, when you question everything, that's when your soul is closest to awakening. Because in that emptiness, the false layers begin to crumble. The ego that lived for approval begins to die. What remains is raw existence, the self that cannot be defined by labels, possessions, or applause. It is the self that simply is. He would remind us that being an individual is not about separating from humanity but deepening our connection to it through authenticity. Only when you know yourself can you truly love another. Only when you stop pretending can you truly see others as they are. The crowd loves masks, but truth requires faces. Kierkegaard's philosophy is a call to remove the mask, to risk being misunderstood in order to be real. Many people live as if their lives are drafts waiting for approval, always postponing authenticity until it's safe. But Kierkegaard would say, there is no safe time to be yourself. Life is not a rehearsal, it's an unfolding moment that demands presence. You don't become yourself someday, you become yourself now, by choosing truth over comfort, meaning over mimicry. Each decision to be authentic, however small, is a revolution against despair. Imagine standing at a crossroads, one path smooth and crowded, the other narrow and steep. The first promises acceptance, the second promises freedom. The first leads to applause, the second to solitude. The crowd will cheer you for the first, but your soul will only awaken on the second. Kierkegaard would say, take the narrow path. Because even if you walk it alone, you will meet the one person who truly matters, yourself. He saw life as a paradox, where joy and suffering are intertwined, where faith and doubt coexist, where freedom is found not by escaping responsibility but by embracing it. To live authentically is to live fully aware of this tension, to walk with uncertainty but without fear. That is what it means to have courage, not to eliminate fear, but to move through it. When you dare to live authentically, you will feel the resistance of the world. People may call you strange, stubborn, or even arrogant. But remember, conformity breeds comfort, not greatness. Every person who has changed history did so by standing alone first. Kierkegaard would say that the individual is the foundation of all progress, moral, artistic, and spiritual. Without individuals who dare to think differently, humanity would stagnate in mediocrity. He also understood the loneliness that comes with being different. But he believed that loneliness, too, has value. It is in solitude that one hears the whisper of truth. The world shouts in noise, but the soul speaks softly. Kierkegaard's own solitude gave him clarity. He learned that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. It can be a sacred space where the self grows roots. Today, his message asks us to reclaim the sacredness of individuality. Not as egoism, but as authenticity. The courage to be yourself is not arrogance, it is honesty. It's standing before the mirror and refusing to lie. It's saying, I may not have all the answers, but I will live my truth. The modern world tempts us with distractions, the endless scroll of comparison and validation. But Kierkegaard would ask, what if you turned off the noise and listened within? What if you stopped measuring yourself against others and simply existed? He believed that each human being has a unique relationship with existence, a conversation that no one else can have on your behalf. And to ignore that conversation is the greatest tragedy. Because when you fail to become yourself, the world loses a voice that will never exist again. To be yourself is not easy. It's a daily act of courage. It means disappointing others, breaking expectations, walking paths without maps. But in that uncertainty, you find meaning. Kierkegaard's life was short. He died at 42, but his legacy is eternal because he lived with purpose. He refused to trade his individuality for approval. His words remind us that freedom is not granted, it is chosen. So the next time you feel lost in a crowd, remember Kierkegaard's warning, the crowd is untruth. Step back. Ask yourself, what do I truly believe? What do I truly love? Who am I when no one is watching? That is where your real life begins. To live authentically is not to reject the world but to illuminate it through your own light. The courage to be yourself is the courage to exist truthfully, to carry your freedom with humility, to face your fear with honesty, and to walk your own path with faith. Because in the end, Kierkegaard's message is simple yet eternal. You are not meant to be a copy of the crowd. You are meant to be a creator of meaning. And that beautiful, terrifying, liberating truth is the power of the individual.